All right, hey, welcome back. You're probably here because you want to know how to find the Tetramod Forge. Well, before you do, I need to point out that this is the second part of the Tetramod tutorial. So if you want to, hang on. So if you want to know exactly how, like the basics of Tetramod and exactly how to make things like pickaxes and, cool tools and stuff, go to that first episode. All right, we're just going to get straight to it. So you want to know how to find one of these babies. Yeah. These things spawn in what's called a ancient ruin. So there are a couple ways to find the Tetra Forge. There's the actual Tetra way, which we'll get to in a second. But if you're playing a mod pack, you might actually be able to get access to a map like this one through a cartographer. Now, I'm not exactly sure what mod is doing this. I think it's either Quark or Supplementaries. I'm not actually 100% sure. So if anybody in the comments knows exactly why this map exists, you can let me know. If you are playing a mod pack and you do happen to have access to this, it's a really, really easy way to find an ancient ruin. Now, if you don't have that, let's pretend you don't have that. And all you've got is the holosphere. So if you take your holosphere and you put it into your workbench, you'll see you have a few things here. A dim core, ancient frame, repository scanner. None of these things work right now, but maybe they will in the future. We're only worried about the scanner. So you've got two things here. You've got the sweeper and you've got the percussion scanner. So the sweeper basically allows you to detect these blocks in a cone of where you're looking. The way you make a sweeper is with an eye of ender. It's pretty straightforward. If you're holding onto this and I'm looking up, it doesn't work, right? But as I look down, it starts to detect that these blocks are here, and you can actually see the little scan lines up in the top going red. Now, this actually only goes so far. It'll actually tell you right here, sweep range, 24 blocks. The vertical and the horizontal are the angle of the cone. And then the range itself, which is right here, is only 24 blocks. If I go up, after a certain point, it'll stop detecting. And this is a problem because if you're walking along on the surface and there's a forge beneath you, you're not looking down, you will not know it's there. And even if you are looking down, you still might miss it because ancient ruins tend to spawn at around Y level 20. The sweeper will help you narrow down where the forge exactly is, but the percussion scanner, which is made with an amethyst, is exactly what we want to use to actually find a forge. So if we're somewhere like over here and we want to detect a forge that is over there, what we can do is we can actually place this down on the ground by shift right clicking. And if you look at your holosphere, you'll see a little tooltip that says enable scanner. You can change the hotkey for this. For me, it's G. When I hit G, you'll see this fancy UI show up all around it. Now, the way to actually use this thing and be able to see the map is you take your hammer, you smack it with a right click. And you see those little blocks there that are showing up? Those things are chunks. So currently it is scanning the land, scanning the chunks to see if there are any Tetramod ruins anywhere within those chunks. And when it detects one, you will see it. I guess my thing over there doesn't count as a Tetramod ruin. Okay, sheesh. All right. When it sees a Tetramod ruin, it'll show up on your little chunk map like that, this big red line. And since this is based on chunks, that means that no matter where you are, no matter how deep it is or how high in the sky you are, it'll still work. See that? How awesome, right? A basic Minecraft chunk is 16 by 16 blocks. So the max distance for this, I believe, is 14 chunks, which is 224 blocks. So this thing can detect 224 blocks away. And depending on the side that you hit it on, it'll search in that direction. And you can't just spam it, unfortunately. You actually have to wait for your hammer to cool down before you can hit again. And this is probably the best way for you to actually find one of these forges. Now, the best places to look for a forge are snowy biomes and mountainous biomes. And for us, we have one just over here. Once you narrow down what chunk your ruin is in, you can use the scanner in order to find it more effectively. Now, before you actually head to your Tetramod forge, you're actually going to want to bring a few things. You're going to want to bring a hammer and a claw, a diamond claw, or really any claw. You only need a level 1 claw. They're pretty easy to make. If you take a hoe or a pickaxe or anything you've got lying around, you can change one of the sides to something called a claw. That's exactly what you're going to need, right? So those are the 2 tools you're going to need when heading to the forge. Now, I'm assuming you're going to want to actually take some of these items back to your own base. And in order to do that, you're actually going to need to add silk touch to your hammer. So keep that in mind before you start searching for the ruins. Okay, you need a hammer, you need a claw, and if you want to take stuff back, you're going to need to have silk touch on your hammer. It's very important. Once you've located exactly where your forge is, you're going to come down here and you're going to find something called a forge pillar. Now, there are a few ways to enter these Tetramod forges, or these Tetramod ancient ruins, and I'm going to show you right here. Sometimes there are entrances like this on the sides. So if you end up running into the side of one of these, just follow along the edges and you should eventually be able to find an opening like this one. So sometimes when you're trying to enter the ruin, you'll be met with one of these vents. And in order to open these up, all you need to do is hit all 4 corners with a hammer and then grab your claw, and there you go, it opens up. While you're traveling around in the ruins, you're going to come across some crates and some containers. Now, in order to open these crates, it's very simple. You just take your claw and you smack it right in the middle. And there you go. You gather the items within the crate itself. Now we're going to get to all the kind of things that you can get in a moment. We've got this forge container here. And the way you open this is that it's got 4 latches. You'll have to hit these locks a certain amount of times in order to break it. And once you've done that, you'll see here, it wants you to use a pry bar in this little, you see this little area here? It'll want you to use this pry bar here, and you might need to use it up to 5 times in order to open this. Now you've got your container opened up, and you've got all sorts of goodies in here, but keep in mind that on the side here, you'll see 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. These containers are actually like 3 chests in one. Now, if you brought your Silk Touch hammer with you, you can actually pick up these forge containers and take them home, which is kind of cool. As well as pretty much any of the other blocks inside of this area, including the forged pillars, the forged platforms, and so on and so forth. I don't think that you can actually take the forged... Oh, you can. These ruins can be quite big, so it's a good idea to look around in order to find everything. Now, sometimes, because these are randomly generated, sometimes you won't have access to every part of the ruin, so it's a good idea to mine around if you feel like you should have more. All right, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to talk about the forge, which this is not it. This is just a forged workbench, which is effectively just a fancy version of the crafting table version that you already have. You don't actually need to use it at all, but you can pick it up with your Silk Touch hammer if you want to take it home with you to complete the look. Something else that I should point out is that not all ruins actually contain a forge. I think it's a pretty good chance that you will find one of these forge hammers, but just know that it's not 100%. Now, when you find these forge hammers, they're likely going to be in a configuration that's something like this, with some thermal cells sticking out of it and some empty openings on the sides. Now, these openings are basically for upgrades. You will find these upgrades as you're opening containers. In order to actually activate the forge hammer, you need to have all slots filled. You'll see the lights come on there. The forge hammers start at a base of level 5, and if you have a couple combustion chambers, you can up it to a level 7 hammer, which is the max level hammer available. The forge hammer can also jam, and if it does jam, you'll need a tier 4 hammer to get it back in working order. You'll need to search around the hammer for a little icon, and once you find it, you right-click it, and the hammer should then be repaired. So the forge hammer itself requires thermal cells to operate, and you might be wondering how you recharge them. What you're going to need for that is one of these. This is a core extractor, a little multi-block structure consisting of a transfer unit, a core extractor, and an extractor pipe. In order to get this working, you'll see that there's a front panel on it. You're going to want to remove that. And then you'll see this little switch thing here, which has to be turned with a hammer. One of these 3 positions will be on, and you're just going to have to keep switching between them in order to figure out which one it is. It's random every time. You can find these things naturally generating inside of the ruin, but again, they're not guaranteed. Another thing to keep in mind here is how your core extractor actually gathers thermal energy, I guess. And it's through this here, seeping bedrock. Now, again, there's not a 100% chance that these will actually spawn inside your ruin, but you will absolutely need them in order to recharge your thermal cells. This seeping bedrock will run dry over time, and when it does, you're actually going to need to find another ruin in order to refill it, because the seeping bedrock only spawns underneath the ruins. All right, there it goes. You see that? And just like that, your thermal cell is filled up. All right, now as you're traveling through your ruins, sometimes you'll come across a little transfer unit system like this, one sitting next to the other. You should be able to transfer power from one cell to another. Yeah, like that. So on your travels through the ruins, you might come across something like this, the ancient schematic. There are 3 different ancient schematics for the stone cutter, the earth piercer, and the extractor. And there's also a chance for you to find the blocks themselves in their ruined variant somewhere inside of the ruins. If you actually want to build one of these at your base, you're going to need all 4 pieces. You're going to need all 4 pieces of the schematic. And when you hold it in your hand, you can actually see which piece you have. So right now I have the bottom left. Your other option is to just use the ancient schematics provided for you inside of the ruins. The ancient schematic can make a diamond extractor pickaxe, a stone cutter, and an earth piercer. The stone cutter is generally made out of a sword, the earth piercer is made out of a shovel, and the extractor is made out of one side of a pickaxe. Now I'll give you an idea of what these things do. The diamond extractor pickaxe breaks multiple blocks in a random order around a block that you break. And sometimes it has a chance to do that. A very interesting tool indeed. The iron stone cutter. The iron stone cutter can essentially sweep away large amounts of stone in one swing. And the last one, the earth piercer, will break a certain number of blocks in a straight line. If you break from the top face of a block, it'll go down. If you break from the side face, it'll go sideways. You can also upgrade these specialized items even further with special materials like chthonic extractors and echo shards. And the Tetra mod does a really good job of explaining exactly what some of these upgrades do, like this one here. So I'll let you explore that for yourself. Right here is pretty much all the items you're going to find inside of the ruins. You've got your forge hammer, your forge workbench, your transfer unit, and your core extractor. Bolts can be used for binding. Structure beams can be used for handles. The flex mesh doesn't seem to have a use as of yet. And the metal scrap can be used to make bolts and hollow spheres. The quick-lash is used for certain modules, most commonly in the tool belt. The lubricant dispenser, combustion chamber, thermal cell, planar stabilizer, and insulated plate all have their own uses for the forge hammer and transfer unit, and it is made very clear in the text exactly what these things do, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. Let's figure out these chthonic extractors. The chthonic extractor can actually be placed into a piece of bedrock and then hammered upon with your hammer, must be a level 4, in order to gather materials from underground. each time you hit the extractor, it will reduce its durability, so keep that in mind. When you hit the Chthonic Extractor, there's a few effects that can happen. Certain stones like deep slate or ore blocks, sand, gravel, or clay in the vicinity can be transformed into one another. Sometimes one of these pieces can be placed down somewhere nearby, and sometimes a stone, ore block, or clay is broken and drops its loot. This process can also be automated by placing a forge hammer above your Chthonic Extractor and providing it with a redstone pulse. Another interesting thing that you can do with an extractor is if you have it in your inventory, you can actually attach it to the right side of a double-headed tool in order to get a tool that will mine in a 3x3x1 block pattern. And you can also upgrade this to make it mine in a 3x3x3 block pattern, which is pretty awesome. Now, there are so many more schematics and upgrades and all sorts of little details. There are so many different kinds of tools that you can create with the Tetra mod. And I hope that this video has given you all the information that you need in order to explore the mod for yourself and build all the different types of tools that will fit your needs. And so that's it. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Maybe I'll see you in the next one. Maybe I'll never see you again. Maybe you're just here for maybe you're just here for this information and I'll never ever see you again. Maybe I'll never make it.